In 1984, I recorded my first LP with the music of Kurt Weill. It was a little Langspielplatte, an album. For some magical coincidence, this album landed on the desk of the director of Universal Music. He hired me to do the encyclopedia of Kurt Weill re-recordings. It started in 1987. And the revival of this music of Kurt Weill, I was allowed to be the protagonist of all those 15 records. And this started my career also here in Italy at the time. My first show in the Teatro Toniolo di Mestre was in 1989 with only Kurt Weill. And suddenly I was the Kurt Weill singer everywhere in the world. Even though I was an actress, I was doing this, and blah, 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 films, movies, but for mostly in the world, in America, in South America, Asia, Europe, I was the singer of Kurt Weill music, the new generation. This was how I started my sudden big career as a very young person. I was 23 years old. And yeah, that's an important step. 1 month later, I received a phone call from her, and we spoke for 3 hours on the telephone. 30 years later, 30 anni dopo, I imagine this was a very important phone call. I must make a conceptual theater show about it and telling her story. And the mood was melancolico, triste, bitter. The big subject was not being able to get back to Germany, ritornare all'Almania dopo la guerra, because she was an American soldier in World War II, German expatriate who had fought against Nazi Germany. And after the war, the Germans forever called her a traitor. So she wanted to come back in 1960 to do concerts in Berlin, Baden-Baden, and people screamed, Marlene, how up? Go away, go home, go back to America. They had so much hatred against her that she could not go back to her home country. She was deeply, deeply bitter. And so that feeling I carried with me a long, long time. You know? And then I always thought about, I really saw in the phone call the human being, the human soul of Marlene, not the perfect beauty with the perfect light and the perfect makeup and the Hollywood diva. I saw an old, bitter, broken woman. And 30 years later, I saw, there was a lot of connection when I got older as a person, as a woman, and I wanted to tell her story. Her story is a very big story, a huge career, a huge star, but the end chapter was lonely, completely isolated in Paris, and she hadn't left the house for more than a decade. She stayed in her apartment, and she was very bitter about the fact that she couldn't go back home